Hi Shay, how are you doing?
Hi, Sarah.
Thanks for agreeing to talk with me this morning. Talk to me this morning about jumpstarting. So for those who don't know you, maybe give us a little bit of background about yourself and what you've done in the Irish education sector over the last, I don't know how many years,
Well, I started teaching in 1991, and I taught in various schools around Dublin, Kildare, and around the Midlands and Ireland. So in 2004, I became principal teacher in what was then a small rural school in the Midlands and Ireland, County Westmeath. And I've been principal ever since.
Fantastic. And we met in 2012, I believe, and we had a chat. And at the time, I understand that you had been talking to your staff about certain students that phonics wasn't working for.
Yeah.
And so what was that conversation? What was the problem that you were seeing at the time?
Well, in Ireland, what we have is we have mainstream teachers teaching the mainstream classes, and we also have special education teachers or learning support teachers. And we sat down as a staff and said, right, what are the issues around learning support? And what we found was that although the teachers were working very hard and the children themselves are working very hard, and we had tried various different initiatives and programs, we just weren't getting the value of all the work that was going into a small cohort of children who were struggling, and they continued to struggle no matter what we tried. So we went about looking for other initiatives because we figured if the ones that we were using weren't working, we needed to try something else.
And then when we spoke, I was explaining how the process was a predominantly visual process rather than through the auditory route. What did you sort of think at that point about? I mean, I know you hadn't seen it in action or anything else, but when you heard that this was a more sort of visual system, what were your sort of thoughts at the time?
Well, we had spent an awful lot of time and money going down the phonics route, and we had tried various different programs there, and they didn't work. So I wanted to look at a new approach, and I said, right, well, this is something different. So we'll try the visual approach because the auditory one just wasn't working for us. I mean, it worked for the children. I mean, it was okay for children who didn't have a learning difficulty, but the ones who did were just continued to struggle.
Yeah. So you were very gracious and allowed me to come in and work with your staff and train your staff. And what did you see kind of after the training? What were your observations? Excuse me.
Well, we started with the grounding aspect of the jump starting, and what we found was there was the place felt different straight away. So the children were calmer, they were more focused, and if the truth be known, the staff were calmer as well. So that was probably the first thing. The place felt different because our school was a rapidly growing school. And there were a lot of changes and a lot of children coming in mid-year from all parts of the country. Then the staff, I remember that we have this thing where you do spelling tests on a Friday, and the staff were running up to me on Friday saying, look at the results, look at the results. So straight away, there was a great buy-in from the staff. So we noticed an improvement across the board, not just with children with learning difficulties, all children, that the results just increased within the space of 2 weeks working on this program.
Which you must have been quite shocked at that success.
Yes, I mean, as I said, we tried various different programs and with limited success, but this was stark. I mean, it was on paper in front of me. So the statistics were there, just the improvement was instantaneous.
And this wasn't, so you weren't just using this in the learning support classes,
No.
This was actually across the whole, you were using it across the whole school. So how did you, because obviously it's not a program, it's a system that you teach children in terms of how to learn in a different way. So how did you implement it? Where did you start and what did you move on to?
Yeah, well, as I said, we started with the grounding technique, which calmed and focused the minds of the children. Then we looked at spelling and how we were teaching spelling. And we taught the children the value of visualizing, and we introduced that to the children. And that was our first step. Once the children had mastered visualizing in the English language, we're a bilingual country, so we started teaching spellings in the Irish language, and we found that the results were the same. They just increased straight away. And then we moved on. We said, right, so we looked at comprehension. Then we looked because there are standardized tests at the end of the year. And part of it would be the comprehension and the understanding of reading. And we found that our standardized test results at the end of the year improved dramatically also. Then we looked at the areas of maths, spelling tables, and problem solving and all of that. And that increased also.
So what do you think about the actual system then, that in terms of how easy is it for staff to learn how to do this, and then how easy it is for the staff to pass that on to the students? What's your sort of view of that?
I think if you introduce something into a school as a principal, it has, it's very easy to introduce something, and if you don't oversee it, people revert back to type. They revert back to the way they always did things. So one of the things you need is, first of all, is it needs to be quite easy to administer, and it needs to be successful in order for it to work well. So when I introduced it to the staff, they noticed straight away that their classes were easier to manage. So we're on a winner there. And in fact, when we came back after lockdowns and all of that here during COVID time, when we come back, one of the first things that was brought up was the children's mental health. And there was unanimity among the staff that we need to start the grounding technique immediately with these children when they come back. And so straight away, there was a buy-in from the staff. They could see the value of it. I mean, what teacher doesn't want a class that's calmer and more focused? It's so much easier to do your job.
Yeah. And
also, I suppose there's the compassionate element. When you see children who are struggling, and when you make a breakthrough with them, it's a great sense of achievement for the child and also for the staff member working with them.
And what sort of feedback have you been getting from parents over the years, especially for children who would have been really struggling in the past?
Yeah, very positive feedback from parents, and a number of them would come in and say, my daughter was going to her violin exam and she was grounding herself in the back of the car before she left. Football coaches would say that children are grounding themselves before important matches, under 12 matches. There was a local radio station did a program on education, and it was the main topic the parents brought up a number of years ago was the program within the school, and how some of their children struggled and how they overcame their issues using this. And it was also on a national TV as well. So there's been a lot of interest in Jumpstarting.
Why do you think it hasn't taken off seeing your success in your school? What do you think the other principals and schools need to know in order for this to really, for people to embrace it the way that you did? What's the message that you would have for principals of other schools?
Well, schools around the world are inundated with the newest book, the newest resource, and you've some very large publishing companies really want you to buy the next thing, which has plenty of workbooks that you need to buy annually for the children. So, but schools are I mean, if I open my inbox today, there could be 30 different resources for sale today, and the same tomorrow. So I think it's that the reason Jumpstarting hasn't taken off is because it's lost among all of the other programs, initiatives that are out there. But if I was to tell other principals, so first of all, I suppose number one is it works. So that's number one. And as principals, we would move heaven and earth to try and get something that works for our pupils. So number one, it works. Number two, the staff buy into it really easily because it works and because of the added benefits of children being calmer and more focused. Also, you don't have to buy workbooks and spend lots of money on resources. It's a technique, and once learned, you have it, and you have it for life. So there are a lot of benefits to it. Now, while it mightn't be in many schools now, we are looking at teacher training college now. So I've been approached by the Federal College of Education, which is the teacher training college with the highest, the highest points in order to gain access to that. So students sitting there leaving cert, this is number one for students attending teacher training, is Federal College of Education in Maynooth. And they've asked me to teach an elective to their fourth year students there because they're excited about this also.
Well, they've seen it in action, haven't they?
Yes.
The director has been into your school and he's actually witnessed it firsthand. Particularly, I think the fact that this works in multiple languages. It doesn't matter what language you're learning in. This works across the board. So particularly for the Irish language, this was something that was very new.
Absolutely. And well, not only did he visit, Shamie O'Neill is his name, not only did he visit the school, he also brought other educationists with him. And annually, our sixth class pupils, who would be the oldest children in the school, are brought up to Freble, and they demonstrate the technique to students up there, and much to the excitement of the children. So they teach, they enjoy the fact that they teach teachers how to teach spelling.
Yeah, it's fabulous. And obviously over the years, we've run trainings within your school for teachers from other schools. What have you seen as a result of those trainings when other teachers and principals come in and see it in action in your school? Generally, what's the feedback?
It's quite amusing, actually. We would generally, these courses would start maybe 15 or 20 minutes after the children have arrived at school. And we would walk the teachers and principals through the school and up to a classroom upstairs. And I've been very often asked, where are the children? And I'd say, well, what do you mean?
Have you closed the school for the day?
Yeah, have you closed the school for the day? No. Why do you ask? Because we can't hear them. And my response is, no, they've done the grounding technique, so now they're learning. So hence no loud noise. They're quite taken by how the skill of spelling. So we would demonstrate, bring them into a class, and one of the older classes would demonstrate a spelling lesson. And they can't get over how the children can visualize the spellings. They can spell the words forwards and backwards. They just can't get over how adept they are at spelling. And then at the end of it, when we've left, we say that the children that we nominated to demonstrate have a diagnosis of dyslexia, maybe diagnosed at 7 or 8, and now at 11 and 12 are spelling 10, 12, 13 letter words forwards and backwards because they can see the words. Looking at maths.
It is remarkable to watch. I always feel very emotional when I'm standing at the back of the classroom witnessing this. And I think just one of the comments as well that I often hear is how mature the students and confident they are.
Yeah.
So it seems to have an impact, not just on spelling ability and reading and maths, but actually on their confidence.
Yeah, well, see, they're calmer. And I suppose, it's very difficult to perform something that you're not good at. And these are children who've overcome great struggles. So they are usually delighted to perform. And there's a little private joke, they're going to ask us because we have dyslexia. Or very often say because we had dyslexia. And it's something that's spoken openly about in school. If somebody has a learning difficulty, so you're diagnosed with dyslexia or dyscalculia, or maybe you have autism, or you have ADHD. You have a diagnosis, and it's spoken about openly. And then we use the jumpstarting techniques to help those children.
Well, it's been an amazing 10 years working, alongside the school. I'm so honoured that you let me come in and have your staff as a trial that seemed to work out, extremely well. And, we've had hundreds of teachers come through the school since then from other schools. Yeah. And take it across the country into other primary schools. So just one quick question in terms of the students when they leave your school and go into secondary, do you ever meet them and ask them, do they continue with this, do they continue to use it?
Yeah, a very amusing situation happened recently. I was at a social gathering in a local town, and some ex-pupils were out, and they were adults now, and one of them spoke to me, and she was 19, and she said, by the way, she said, I'm still using the grounding, I'm still using the visualizing, I've done my leaving cert, I've applied for the police force, and before I did those exams, I grounded myself and I visualized, and I thought it was excellent. We also have a drama school that meet here on Wednesdays after school, and children up to 15 or 16 do it. And they would tell me that before they perform in the Mullingar Arts Centre, that they would ground themselves, and they were teaching other their peers how to be more calm and focused before they go on stage. So I suppose it's a life's lesson that many of them have brought forward.
Oh, that's I love those stories. those types of stories. That just shows, that this is a skill. This is not a program. This is something that you teach people. The students have to do this themselves. Once they know how to do it, it seems to work, extremely well. So I suppose one final note would be, if you had a final message for any educators who are watching this, whether it's primary school, secondary school, or their teachers, even in special needs units, what would your message be?
Well, I suppose as teachers, we feel great compassion for the children under our care, and the vast majority of teachers will do anything to help their students. In my years in teaching, this is the most successful initiative that I've had a small part to play in. So if, like me, you see that children struggling, and there is a way to make their lives much better, and also to make your job more enjoyable, because calmer classes, happier children, happier staff can only create a far better learning environment. So what I would say is it's there, use it, and it's a hell of a lot cheaper than anything you might be implementing at the moment. It's a life skill rather than a set of workbooks. Yeah, that's
fantastic. Shay, thank you so much. It's been an absolute honour to have been part of your school's success. Again, in a small way, I don't take credit for what the school did, because I just delivered the training, and yourself and your staff are incredible. And I think one of the interesting things as well, just before I say goodbye to you, is how when new staff come in who didn't do my original training, how easy it is actually for those staff to grasp the basics until they go and maybe do a full 2-day training with me afterwards. But they can see it working. The students often teach them actually what to do. That's what I love, is the students are saying, actually, this is how we learn how to spell, and teach the teacher. And I just think that's incredible to see as well.
Yeah. I know the children, they know themselves that they need, particularly the grounding in the morning. They love that, because we don't know, so actually we do know in a lot of cases the trauma of home life for some children. And, some children have had a very, very bad start to their morning. And sometimes it's a huge achievement for that child to present themselves at the school. And, maybe poor diet, maybe no breakfast. We don't know what the dynamic is, but to come into school where it's safe, it's warm, it's calm, and then they can get into their little bubble of their learning environment where all of that is the truth for them every day. It's doing a great service for those children.
It really is, and their families too. In turn. So Shay, thank you so much Really appreciate you talking to me today about the Jumpstarting Word and Number Skills course.
Okay, thank you, Sara, and best of luck.
Thank you so much.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.